In the wake of World War II, the city of Gdansk, Poland, bore witness to an event that would forever be etched into history's annals. On July 4, 1946, atop the imposing hill of Biscuit Gorka, a crowd, estimated at over 200,000 strong, stood huddled, their collective breaths held in anticipation. They were there to bear witness to a historical reckoning, the executions of the notorious guards from the Stutthof concentration camp. What made this event especially shocking was that among these guards were women who had gained notoriety for their unspeakable cruelty and barbarism. Our journey starts at the Stutthof concentration camp, conceived in the early days of World War II. It was here that prisoners, many of whom were initially Polish, were exploited in the construction of the very camp meant to imprison them. But as the war progressed and the tides turned against the Nazis, Stutthof's population ballooned. By 1944, it burgeoned with a staggering influx of Jewish inmates transferred from the more infamous camps like Auschwitz, raising its inmate count to approximately 24,000. To manage this surge, the camp's administration introduced new guards, some of whom were local recruits. With their induction, what was already a grim environment degraded rapidly. Hunger, diseases, and ruthless violence became even more rampant. Thousands met their untimely end, victims of deprivation and abuse. Eva Paradies is one name among these guards that sends shivers down the spine. Joining Stutthof in August 1944, Eva's early years are shrouded in mystery. But once she entered the concentration camp circuit, she quickly made a name for herself. Her dedication to the Nazi cause was absolute and unwavering. Undergoing rigorous training, she emerged as a tyrannical overseer. Her reign was marked by a trail of agony and screams, as she relished the use of whips and other instruments of pain against the hapless inmates. But as fate would have it, with the Allies and Red Army advancing, Eva's dark world began crumbling. In April 1945, she was part of the last-ditch effort to evacuate the camp's prisoners. And while she briefly eluded capture during a hellish death march, her freedom was short-lived. The Stutthof trials commenced, focusing on the atrocities committed at Stutthof. Eva, along with 15 others, found herself in the dock, facing the weight of her crimes. The court's gavel struck, sealing her fate. She was to be executed. That summer day in 1946 saw Eva Paradies, then only 25 years old, and her fellow guards ushered onto the gallows in Gdansk. The crowd, estimated at 20,000, assembled, a mix of survivors, families of the deceased, and those hungry for justice. At the central platform stood former Commandant Johann Pauwels and another guard, Gerda Steinhoff. Their grimaces were evident as the noose was tightened. Off to the side, two figures awaited their turn: Eva Paradies and Jenny Wanda Barkman. Their notoriety had spread far and wide, and their impending end was keenly awaited. The executioner's cold hands placed the noose around Eva's delicate neck, and as the truck underneath her moved, her world darkened forever. While Eva's dark journey ended, another chapter from this grim book is that of Elizabeth Becker. Born in 1923 in Danzig, Elizabeth, like many of her peers, was influenced by Nazi propaganda. As a girl, she was part of the League of German Girls, a youth organization with a singular agenda, molding young girls into staunch supporters of the Nazi regime. The League was instrumental in shaping Elizabeth's destiny. Her initial years were spent doing mundane jobs. But as the war escalated and the Nazis grew desperate, Elizabeth saw an opportunity and joined the SS Guards at Stutthof. Stutthof, originally conceived in 1942, had transformed from a camp with 8 barracks surrounded by barbed wire into a sprawling death factory. It now had over 30 barracks, a crematorium and a gas chamber, capable of extinguishing the lives of 150 souls simultaneously. As a guard, Elizabeth became a cog in this monstrous machine. Day in and day out, she played a role in selecting inmates for extermination. For every finger she pointed, lives were snuffed out. But when the war ended, Elizabeth, like her peers, was arrested. During her trial, she pleaded for mercy, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. On that fateful July day in 1946, alongside Eva and others, Elizabeth met her demise, with over 200,000 pairs of eyes bearing witness. Then there was Jenny Wanda Barkman, a name synonymous with deception. Born in 1922 in Hamburg, Jenny's life was an enigma. From aspirations of acting to modeling, she had a life many envied. Yet in 1944, she made a choice that forever altered her path. Answering the SS's call, she became a guard at Stutthof. In the camp, her beauty juxtaposed with her brutality. She relished her power, using it to inflict pain and suffering. But as the war ended, she tried to fade into oblivion, only to be arrested in Gdansk. Her trial was a spectacle. She proclaimed her innocence, flirted with her captors, and remained defiant until the end. But justice prevailed. On July 4, 1946, she, like the others, was executed. This tale isn't just about these women. It's about Stutthof, a camp born from the ambitions of a madman and built on the broken backs of Polish prisoners. As World War II raged, Stutthof expanded, adding more barracks, electrified fences, and watchtowers. The camp became a crucible of human suffering. While the gas chambers and crematorium took lives en masse, it was the individual tales of horror that made Stutthof infamous. Prisoners were subjected to medical experiments, cruel and unusual punishments, and forced labor. These tales of horror intersect with the stories of our central figures, but they also bring to light lesser-known tormentors like Wanda Clove. A local from Danzig, Wanda was a known face in the camp. She embraced her role with gusto, often taking pleasure in tormenting the prisoners. As the war's end neared, with the Allies closing in, a frantic evacuation was ordered. Thousands were forced on death marches, with many not surviving the ordeal. Those who did, including many of our central figures, were captured. The subsequent trials brought attention to the horrors of Stutthof. Witnesses, many of them survivors, came forward, sharing their tales of agony. These testimonies sealed the fates of the accused. Biskupia Gorka's Hill, on that day in 1946, was a place of reckoning. The gallows stood tall, casting long, ominous shadows. 20,000 pairs of eyes watched as those once feared tormentors met their end. It was a day of retribution, of closure. As we conclude this journey, we're reminded of the adage, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. By remembering the horrors of Stutthof and the stories of those like Eva Paradies, Elizabeth Becker, Jenny Wanda Barkman, and Wanda Clove, we ensure that such dark chapters are never rewritten. Thank you for journeying through this chilling chapter of history with us. Let their story serve as a stark reminder of the depths humanity can sink to, and the importance of ensuring such horrors are never repeated. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay tuned for more such videos. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.